success story here at Inspired Coach. Today is the day where we get to share with you one of the incredible journeys of a beautiful you coaching alumni. And what an alumni we have for you today. It is the incredible Yolanda Finette. Yolanda is a certified, award-winning holistic life coach, counsellor, and wellbeing practitioner whose coaching practice honours identity, sovereignty, and reconnection. Combining her unique cultural intersection of Aboriginal, African American, and Greek heritage, Yolanda's journey has enabled her the tools to reconnect with her ancestral lineages and create a truly multi-dimensional approach to her one-on-one and group coaching programs. She's also a workshop maven. This is something that I know. Yolanda, as you are about to hear, is particularly passionate about supporting First Nations people to remember their power, to feel seen, to take up space and live their most potent and courageous lives. Yolanda is an incredible person. Somebody that I am honoured to know and feel even more honoured to have trained to become a coach. And you are about to learn and feel and hear and see Yolanda's truly raw, honest, vulnerable, and also incredibly potent but gentle way that she communicates and shares her wisdom. Yolanda's business is now wildly successful. She has developed truly an incredible reputation for herself as a First Nations coach, and I know you are going to love this episode ahead. We are also incredibly excited here at Beautiful You to be welcoming in so many of you who have joined us from around the world since we launched just a few days ago now our 2024 Beautiful You Life Coaching course beginning in February. We are thrilled that so many of you are as excited as we are about training on this path, and that you have been smart enough to get in at a time when we have such incredible bonuses on offer. Those bonuses that go right through until September 8th include a 24-month payment plan to help you with your payments, $500 off your enrollment, whether that be pay in full or the deposit on the payment plan, and a 3-month bonus momentum builder after your course has finished. We also have some incredible fast-acting bonuses that are only available until the end of this month, which is August 31st. They include all the bonuses that I've just mentioned now, as well as a virtual group VIP day with me, a masterclass on podcast pitching, and your opportunity to be live here and being interviewed on Inspired Coach, a private group welcome call with me before your course begins. There's going to be a little bit of group coaching and one-on-one hot seats in there too. And a gorgeous, gifts are my love language, gorgeous VIP gift bag that you will receive either in person at the Melbourne Inspiration Day next year, or we will mail that out to you if you are unable to be with us. To say that we are jumping out of our skin about these amazing bonuses is a somewhat of an understatement, and we can see and feel and know already from the enrollments that so many of you are too, which we are thrilled for. And so please, if you have been thinking about joining us to become a coach, the time could not be better. We have expectations that this course will be well and truly on its way to filling up by the end of this incredibly special offer period. And if you think that February 2024 is a long time away, believe me when I tell you it's not. And our courses always sell out months in advance. Thanks so much, everyone. We're excited for you to be joining us for 2024 and also excited to be presenting this beautiful You Success Story interview ahead with Yolanda Finette. Yolanda Finette, hello and welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I'm so delighted and excited to have you on as our guest today.
Thank you, Julie. It's wonderful to be here.
Yolanda, we are about to unravel and journey and weave and walk through your success story as a coach. And wow, what a story it is. And so let's start from the beginning. Tell us what was happening in your life when you first started to feel into the thought or the idea, I might like to be a coach.
Yeah, it's really funny because I didn't have the language to actually know what it was to be a life coach. So I didn't really know what a life coach was when I decided that I wanted to be a life coach, which is really interesting. And at the time, I was a manager in Child, Youth and Family Services. I was working in First Nations or Aboriginal community here in Naarm as a manager for a child protection program. And I was, as all people that kind of work in that sector, it had been, a sort of a 20-year career for me, and I was at complete burnout, but I didn't know that I was burnt out. It was just normal for me. It was completely the way of the workplace. Everybody was exhausted. Everybody was angry. Everybody was tired. Everybody was depressed. Everybody was unhealthy. And it was just how it was. And you just kind of got on with it because the thought of doing something else never really crossed my mind. And as time went on, I realized, and it was more my family, it was almost a bit of an intervention because by then I'd had my third child, and my two oldest children were after school care, before school care kids. So I was literally the mum that didn't know any other mums because I was never able to get to anything. I was never involved in anything. I was exhausted all the time. I don't know. I often say to myself now, I don't know how my kids ever got clean clothes or even had meals because of the lifestyle that I had back then. And so it just became a point of, it became critical. Like it became to a point where my husband and my kids kind of gave me a bit of an intervention and said, we want mum. We want my husband needed his wife and my kids needed their mum. And so slowly kind of I started to think about the possibility of something else. And it was a really slow kind of process. And I remember I'd get out my journals and I'd just start thinking and I'd start visualizing what could I do with what I know and what I've experienced and what I've learned in my years in I'd done youth work and I'd done case management and I'd done project work. So I'd done a bit of this and a bit of that, and I was definitely had some leadership skills. So what could I do with all that? And I started sort of mind mapping it out a little bit, and I thought, well, I'd love to sort of empower people, and maybe I could do workshops, or maybe I could and I remember I had seen, I don't know if you recall, there was a show on many years ago with Jan Van Zandt, and she used to coach people. Yeah, she used to coach people on television, and I just would look at that and I would love what she did, but I didn't really know that was called life coaching. So with my own exploration, I started to just dive in, and I started to just ask a lot of questions, and I somehow landed myself in a little bit of a business kind of program. And that, funnily enough, I got talking with the woman who ran that program, and she said, "It sounds like what you want to do is life coaching." And I said, "How do you do that? How do you become a life coach?" And she said, "The only program that I would ever recommend would be the Beautiful You." And so, so then I went to Beautiful You, and it was one of those things where I'd go to the website, and then I'd go away, and then I'd go back, and I'd look at it, and I think that's really beautiful, and it's very pink, and it's very lovely, and then I go and I go away, and it parts of it would resonate, parts of it maybe not so much, and then I kept on, but I kept on sort of, it kept calling me back, and so the more I kind of moved into the space of, all right, I'm going to do this. I have no idea what it looks like. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to do this. And I remember going to my husband and I said, give me 2 years, because we're a household of 2 management incomes, so it was a big risk, and so I said, give me 2 years, just give me 2 years, and I promise you I'm going to do this. And so then I started the journey. I first of all, I went in, I always had this idea that I wanted to be a holistic life coach. So I started with studying holistic counselling, because I wanted to kind of get a very kind of holistic view of what kind of approach that I wanted to take. And then from there, I signed up, and here we are.
And here we are, more than 2 years later.
Yes.
More than 2 years later, and still with so much of the story unfolding. And so thank you for taking us back to what was clearly a really not great time for you. There's burnout, and then there's burnout that you don't even know it's burnout. And that's possibly even more dangerous and more impactful in many ways, because you don't necessarily realize what is happening, and you're normalizing things, tiredness and anxiety and sleeplessness and a variety of things that are happening. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you share this story, and I'm like, wow, what courage, because that really is a leap of faith. And obviously your husband was very supportive of that for you at the time, which is amazing. Do you remember the conversation that you and I had before you signed up to do the course?
I don't remember all the details, but I do remember the call. And I think, the thing that probably stood out for me the most from that call was I was really concerned about my safety in the program. And I had, and I don't want to speak badly of my counselling program at all. I definitely got a lot out of that, but there was definitely parts of that I struggled with. And so I wanted to be able to be in a space, particularly because I was so passionate about what I was doing. And it was a big choice and a massive investment. Like, it's obviously a big investment for somebody who's given up their full-time job to, just take a leap of faith. And but I think, the question I recall asking you was something along the lines of, how will the Beautiful You program ensure that I am, held safely culturally in the program? And I do remember my eyes welling up with tears. Because I was blown away. I had never actually in my whole life came across a white woman that spoke like that, and that could speak from such a place of understanding their own privilege while also being really understanding of why I had to even ask that question in the first place. So, it meant a lot to me. I appreciate you a lot for that.
Thank you, Yolanda. And that conversation meant a great deal to me as well. I have had many, many conversations with people who have been considering taking this course, and that was one of the most profoundly direct and important questions that anybody has ever asked me. That for you as a First Nations woman to have the courage to say, will you see me? Will you look after me? Will I be okay? Is this space going to support me to do what I want to do? And obviously that's a very nuanced conversation, which we don't need to go into here. It's a personal conversation to you, but I will never forget that conversation because it was such a brilliant question for me to have to feel into myself and answer. But also I knew in that moment that I wanted you to do this course more than ever, because the fact that you were even asking it told me that you were devoted and dedicated to creating those sorts of spaces for yourself and others in the future. And the fact is this, that not everybody is, no matter what their background. And so I was just very privileged to have that conversation with you, and for you then to make the decision to go ahead and study with us. What was that experience like as it was unfolding for you? And you're thinking, wow, okay, I've leapt off the cliff now. I'm actually really doing this. You know, I want to let everyone know that I remember and know you to have been at that time. You were deeply committed. Like you were showing up for you were doing what you told your husband you were going to do. It's like you went all in. You really devoted yourself to your studies, didn't you?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because it's sort of a lot of, you know, that initial question I asked you has kind of come full circle, because so many people in my community have come to me and said, tell me about Beautiful You. Is that a program that I should do? And I have seen them go through the program now, and it was so important, obviously, for me to be able to not only feel safe for myself, but obviously be able to speak to, you know, to my community and say, you're good, you can do this. And I think, the experience of Beautiful You was incredible. Gosh, you know, I'm an introvert and I'm super shy, and it really pushed me outside of my comfort zone in so many ways. And I remember the courage, like I would set myself the task of, you're going to ask a question today, and I would write the question down, and I would just be so nervous, you know, to ask that question. And I remember I asked you a question, and I remember I felt like I sounded absolutely ridiculous, and I was so embarrassed, but I did it, and that was sort of, it was a lot of kind of proving to myself that I could do it. And I remember at the beginning of the program, my buddy, who's an incredible woman named Jodie, and I remember saying to her at the beginning, I'm just going to let you know one thing. We are never, ever doing live coaching. So I'm really sorry you got paired with me. And if you want to, you know, opt out of being my buddy, feel free. But let me tell you, we are not doing live coaching. And and so sure enough, one of my goals in our coaching series was for me to really find my voice and to connect with my voice and to own my voice. And lo and behold, of course, what was one of the actions that we came up with was for us to do the live coaching, which was honestly to date one of the most terrifying but most brilliant experiences of my life. And it was really kind of that opportunity that really just, little Yolanda was like, you did that, you did it, you did it. And so the experience was brilliant. It was brilliant. It pushed me out of my comfort zone in a really nurturing and caring way. And I did go all in. And I always tell people when they want to, have a yarn with me about the program, and I say, my advice is go all in, just go all in. It's, at that time it was 6 months. I know it's a year-long program now, but it's such a small time of your life and a short time of your life. And the more you give to the program, the more it gives back to you. And So I just, I loved it. I loved it. And I
Mm,
still go back and I still do my, I still go back occasionally, and I pull out my worksheets and I do my,
mm.
I go through little, worksheets and processes, and I revisit things. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for just sharing that insight and your study journey with us. And since then, Yolanda, you have gone on to build a truly inspirational and incredible business. You are a proud Yorta Yorta African American and Greek woman, and you work with and support Black, Indigenous, and people of color to really embody their power, their potential, and their purpose. Tell us a little bit about making the decision to step into that niche and those initial first, months, those first even 2 years out of moving from being in the career zone where you were taking a paycheck home from someone else to being a fully fledged businesswoman. Because, yeah, that's a big leap.
It's a huge leap. It's a huge leap. As my mum says, why would you give up, a company car and superannuation paid for you? And now she says, I get it. I get it.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, thanks, Mum. Thanks, Mum. I think, my niche has definitely ebbed and changed as I've ebbed and changed. I kind of, I've really I work with my rhythm and my energy, and I feel like um, my business is very much goes with who I am as a woman and who I am in my seasons a lot. And so it was a non it wasn't it was just a non negotiable for me to work with my people and my community. And I think it's really interesting because coaching, is, and still is to some degree in our community quite a privileged kind of modality. And for a community that is still very much in the healing phase, and navigating a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, it's it seems quite indulgent to be thinking of what do you aspire to and what are your dreams, and who is it that you want to be. And it's certainly something that my mum and my nan and my family and aunties would never even have thought of. So it has been a kind of a process of really kind of, how do I create a business, and how do I create a lane that is not only ready for my community and able to be accepted by my community, which is first and foremost, but also is a business and a process, I guess, that helps people to see their possibilities and helps people to really reconnect with their dreaming, because that is our birthright. Our birthright is to be able to connect with our purpose and to connect with our passion. And yes, we've had a lot of hurt and we've had a lot of trauma, but we also get to dream, and we get to have a purpose, and we get to have our passions. And so that's so I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that I work with First Nations people to really connect with their dreaming and to connect with their realm of possibilities. And interestingly, the clientele that I have really kind of attracted has been First Nations entrepreneurs and startups, and the people wanting to start a business and really kind of working through that confidence and mindset and those blocks, so many blocks around, how can I do this? Am I worthy of doing this? Is this for me? A big narrative for me is things like this don't happen to people like me, because I didn't have the role models. I didn't have people in business to show me this is how it's done. I certainly didn't have a lot of First Nations life coaches to show me how it was done, and so it's stepping into these uncharted waters. And so I love that I now get to work with so many incredible First Nations startups and business owners to be able to see their potential and see their realm of possibility.
And that is just such important work, because you are now being and showing that way and being that role model for them. And so it makes complete sense to me that they would want to reach out and work with you as somebody that is doing it, done it / doing it, right? You made the leap, you made that decision, you said yes to yourself and the desire to create something different. And you're showing so many other people, First Nations and otherwise, might I add, because your success is universal in so many ways and in what it is that you're creating. And one of the things that I really love about your business, Yolanda, is that you have so many different touch points that people can access you through. You run workshops, group programs, one-on-one coaching. Tell us a little bit more about your reasoning behind that. Did you think that you would, or always planned to do that specifically, or has it just turned out that that's the way that sparks you and makes you feel lit up in your own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my initial business model was always to facilitate workshops and to do one-on-one coaching. I didn't really think much about kind of group coaching programs, and that kind of sort of evolved over the years. I think during COVID, it was very much during that lockdown period, I was able to do a lot of one-on-one, and then organisations started reaching out to me to do a lot of wellbeing workshops, because obviously their staff were going through a lot. And so I was finding myself really being lit up by doing workshops. And the group dynamic, I think I get to show my personality a lot more in the group space. And I just really enjoyed connecting with different people in the workshop space. So, so that kind of evolved, and I was like, I really like this. And so it was, once sort of things started opening up a lot again, and I started to go back into the community, and I started to really sit with it and think, and I was like, I really love workshops. Like that's my thing. Like I really love it. I really love it, because I'm a bit silly, and I'm a bit, I'm a bit of a, I'm a bit silly is the word. and workshops really bring out my personality, and so, Aboriginal people have silly personalities, and it really shines in those spaces. And so, and then it's sort of other, opportunities such as external supervision, I guess, from my background in child, youth and family services. So I was able to connect with a few different departments and organisations to provide supervision for their staff. And I provide both cultural supervision to non-Aboriginal people working in Aboriginal spaces, and I provide supervision for Aboriginal people who are managed by white people or non-Aboriginal people. So it can be quite different. But honestly, the reality is, for me, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I found I could not sustain my business just based on one-on-one coaching. It would be a lot for me. Personally, I know a lot of people do that and do it very well, but I needed to have a bit of diversity. And that works for me, because I love that I have workshop Wednesdays, and I have facilitation Thursdays, and I have, and I only coach, 3 days a week. So my weeks are really kind of set up to really be in tune with me and how I work and what lights me up, and my energy mostly.
And you know what? That's exactly the way that it should be, setting your business up in a way where you get to thrive. Because when we are thriving as coaches and online business owners, the chances of our businesses being sustainable long term, it skyrockets.
Yes.
We all know that if something doesn't light us up, where we're not thriving, where we're grinding ourselves down, all of those sorts of things, you can do those things with things that you love and they're still going to tire you out. And so I love that you're really paying attention to what you need as a business owner. That's just incredibly important, because we need you around for a long time. It's like there's still so much to come. Yolanda, I'd love to ask you, for any coach that is listening, particularly one that may identify as First Nations, and is thinking about the personal development industry, thinking about coaching for themselves, that they may have some gifts that they'd like to bring forward. Is there anything that you'd love to share and impart as wisdom in regards to how you've just grown your business into this full-time, gorgeous, diversely thriving, successful entity that it now is?
Thank you. It's really interesting because in coaching training in Beautiful You, there's a module that talks about is it oneliness or
Onlyness?
Onlyness. And that really stuck with me, really kind of tapping into who you are. And when I first started as a coach, I spent a lot of time trying to be what I thought everybody wanted me to be. And I was very much, even my business, I was just kind of recreating kind of this capitalistic cycle of, work hard and you must prove yourself and, burn the midnight oil. And I think when I pulled myself back and I slowed things right down, and honestly, the key for me has been deep listening. And it's just the power of listening to myself, first and foremost, and trusting in myself and trusting in my journey, in my knowledge, in my wisdom, in all of me, and knowing that I am enough, and trusting in my ancestors to continue to guide me, and listening to them, listening to country, listening to others, but just that power of listening and just pausing and allowing that space to stop and listen is really kind of is probably the best advice I can give. And it's probably not the advice that everybody would want, because people probably want something a little bit more practical. But honestly, that self-trust, which I believe comes from that pause and listening, is all you need. Because when you have self-trust and you create your own lane, because there is so much noise out there, and there is so much, out there that distracts you, and you compare yourself, and there's imposter syndrome and all the rest of it. And the more you kind of create you and you create your lane and you stick to that, I think that you can really thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Such beautiful words for us to finish on today, Yolanda. We are so proud of absolutely everything that you are doing and achieving, and it's just been beautiful to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.
Everyone, if you would like to learn more about Yolanda's brilliant work and all of her different touch points and offerings, they are truly incredible, please go to the podcast section of our website. Yolanda is doing absolutely incredible work. She's obviously honoured that promise that she made to her husband and said, give me 2 years, and look at you still flying all these years later. Keep going.